Hello there, you're watching All 24 News live from Algiers. Here are today's headlines. President Tebboune reaffirmed Algeria's determination to consolidate its place as a strategic partner of Italy in energy matters and to honor its commitments as regional and reliable international supplier. Also in our news, Poland reiterates it is ready to send tanks to Ukraine without Germany's consent as pressure builds on Berlin to supply the heavy weapons that Kiev has been calling for. And Brazilian president makes his first trip abroad as a president to Argentina. EU agrees on new Iran sanctions over deadly crackdown on anti-regime protesters. Hello again and welcome to the program. Fast in our news, Algeria and Italy signed 4 cooperation and partnership agreements as well as a joint declaration on the occasion of the anniversary of the conclusion of the Treaty of Friendship and Partnership between the two countries. The accords include an agreement between Algerian Sonatrach Group and Italian Eni to improve energy interconnection networks in order to achieve sustainable energy transition, as well as an agreement to accelerate emissions reduction and support energy security. The two sides also signed a memorandum of understanding between the Algerian Economic Renewal Council and the Organization of Industrial and Economic Employers on the Italian side, and an agreement in the field of cooperation in space technologies. Earlier in the day, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune had received at the Algerian presidency the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who was on a 2-day working visit to Algeria. President Tebboune had held private talks with Italy's Prime Minister before extending them to include members of delegations of both countries. In the same context, Giorgia Meloni's visit is the 3rd visit of an Italian Prime Minister to Algeria in less than a year, a sign of strong relationship and strategic partnership between Algeria and Italy. Zahra Farjani with more in this report.
Italy's Giorgia Meloni headed to Algeria in her first state visit as Prime Minister, demonstrating the vital position of Algiers in Rome's list of strategic partners. Algeria and Italy aim to consolidate the relations and sign joint agreements in several sectors.
ويجدر في البداية أن أنوه بمستوى العلاقات الاستراتيجية وبالمجهودات المبذولة خاصة في السنتين الأخيرتين لتعزيز الشراكة بين البلدين.
Meloni concluded her visit in Algeria with new strategic agreements to support energy security, initiating concrete steps to complete a new pipeline to transfer energy from Algeria to Italy, respecting the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions.
ومضينا الاتفاق اليوم على أساس بداية الدراسة ثم الإنجاز في أنبوب يكون أنبوب خاص. ما هوش أنبوب مثل الأنبوب الموجود حاليا، لأنه أنبوب سيضم أولا الغاز، ثانيا هيدروجين، الأمونياك وحتى الكهرباء.
We aim to increase energy supplies from Algeria to Italy and thus to the rest of Europe by studying the possibility of transporting gas and establishing a new gas pipeline that also allows the transportation of hydrogen and then achieving the desired energy transition.
This cooperation includes the sector of renewable energies, with the possibility of exporting electricity from Algeria to Italy via maritime line.
جددت للسيدة ميلوني حرص الجزائر على تعزيز مكانتها كشريك استراتيجي لإيطاليا في المجال الطاقوي والتزامها بدورها كممول موثوق على الصعيدين الإقليمي والدولي، وكذا الأمر بالنسبة للاستثمار الصناعي بإيطاليا في الجزائر.
Algeria has priority because it is the most stable strategic partner and our partnerships extend over the long term. There are several projects that support the endeavor, such as the marine line that carries electricity and also transporting liquefied gas. This is the strategy we are looking for to confront the energy crisis that is hitting Europe.
The Algerian-Italian energy partnership is increasing, paving the way for win-win and mutual benefits for both parties. The agenda includes creating a regional platform for the re-export of Algerian energy through Italy to the rest of Europe.
On the Libyan file, the President of the Republic highlighted that the two countries share the same vision and points of view on the need to reach a consensual agreement on boosting the process of inter-Libyan dialogue and national reconciliation leading to the organization of elections. Let's have a listen.
فبالنسبة للأزمة الليبية أكدنا على ضرورة التوصل إلى حل توافقي أساسه تنظيم الانتخابات ودعم مسار المصالحة الوطنية الليبية في إطار الحوار الشامل الذي تقوده الأمم المتحدة.
And regarding the Malian file, Algeria and Italy stressed the need for the actual implementation of the Peace and Reconciliation Agreement emanating from the Algiers Initiative. Let's listen.
أما عن الوضع في مالي فشددنا على وجوب التطبيق الفعلي لاتفاق السلم والمصالحة المنبثق عن مسار الجزائر وعبرها عن الإرادة المشتركة للتنسيق في مسعى مرافقة الإخوة في مالي وتمكينهم من الدعم السياسي والمالي من طرف المجتمع الدولي بما في ذلك عبر تعزيز دور البعثة الأممية لمينيسما.
As for the question of Western Sahara, President Tebboune hailed the positive and balanced role of Italy in calling for a solution as part of UN resolutions and for the Palestinian cause. The head of state reiterated Algeria's constant and principled position to stand by and support the Palestinian people in defending their legitimate rights.
وفيما يتعلق بقضية الصحراء الغربية أنوه بالموقف الإيجابي والمتوازن لإيطاليا الداعي إلى إيجاد حل عادل لهذه القضية في إطار ما نصت عليه قرارات الأمم المتحدة وبما يمكن الشعب الصحراوي من حقوقه المشروعة. فيما يخص القضية الفلسطينية فقد أكدنا الموقف الثابت والمبدئي للوقوف إلى جانب الشعب الفلسطيني ومساندته في الدفاع عن حقوقه المشروعة من أجل إقامة دولته المستقلة وعاصمتها القدس الشريف. وأكدنا على ضرورة حمل الاحتلال الإسرائيلي لانصياع لقرارات ولوائح الأمم المتحدة ووقف الانتهاكات المتكررة في حق الشعب الفلسطيني الذي ما زال يعاني من الاعتداءات المستمرة.
And in a sad development regarding the crash of the military helicopter, the President of the Republic's Supreme Head of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, presented his sincere condolences following the death as martyrs on Monday of crew members of a military helicopter in a crash in Ataf in the province of Ain Dafla. President Tebboune also offered his condolences to all the elements of the People's National Army following the tragic accident. To God we belong, and to Him we shall return. And in this painful ordeal, the Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, Major General Saeed Shengriha, presented on his turn, in his name and on behalf of all the personnel of the People's National Army, his sincere condolences to the families and loved ones of the martyrs as well. And earlier in the day, the National People's Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Saeed Shengriha, arrived on Monday in Paris for an official visit to France, the first in 17 years. A statement from the Algerian Ministry of Defense indicated that the Lieutenant General Shahid Sengriha was received by the French President Emmanuel Macron, who handed him a written message from the Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. This visit, which falls within the framework of strengthening cooperation between the People's National Army and the French armies, enables the two parties to discuss issues of common interest. And in different development, EU foreign ministers held a meeting on Monday in Brussels to discuss the agenda that includes issues related to the war in Ukraine, situation in Palestine, as well as issues in the Sahel region. EU foreign ministers are expected to meet Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh to discuss measures to strengthen communication with the Palestinian Authority and to evaluate how to cooperate more effectively and strongly with the current, let's say, situation in Palestine. During a press conference, Foreign and Security Policy Chief Joseph Borrell, who was in charge of the council meeting, said the situation in Palestine is worrying.
Palestinian Prime Minister, and we will discuss how to engage more with the Palestinian Authority and the situation on the ground, which is certainly very much worrisome.
Zionist forces detained 27 Palestinians from various parts of the occupied West Bank, including a 13-year-old child from North Bethlehem, on Monday morning. According to official Palestinian sources, Zionist occupation forces rounded up Palestinians and ransacked their family houses in several West Bank refugee camps, including Jazalon, Nur Shams, and Dahaisheh. The Sahrawi President Secretary General of the Polisario Front, Mr. Ibrahim Ghali, affirmed that the 16th Congress was clear in its decisions and in defining the parties of national action for the next stage. Ghali, in his speech during the conclusion of the work or the proceedings of the 16th Congress, said that the success of the conference did not come from a vacuum, but was the result of a comprehensive national popular effort for all spectrums of the Sahrawi component in all locations. Still in Africa, Burkina Faso government spokesman said on Monday that his country's authorities have decided to end a military accord that allowed French troops to fight insurgents on its territory because the government wants the country to defend itself. On his part, French President Emmanuel Macron said on Sunday during Franco-German summit that he was seeking clarifications from Burkina Faso's transitional president, Brahim Traoré, about the decision.
What we denounce today is the agreement that allows, of course, the French forces to be present in Burkina Faso. Beyond that, it is not about the end of diplomatic relations between Burkina Faso and France.
I'm waiting for the president during the transition to speak. I understand that the messages that they have come out at this point have caused a lot of confusion, as he's traveling outside the capital, so we must stay careful.
Donc je pense qu'il faut garder beaucoup de prudence.
And in a different development, the spokesman for the Iranian Foreign Ministry said on Monday that Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian has explained Iran's latest stance on JCPOA revival talks, and that various parties continue exchanging messages through different channels in an effort to revive the 2015 nuclear agreement. According to the spokesman, Iran is working within diplomatic frameworks to resolve the nuclear issue and request the lifting of U.S. sanctions. Kanani also said that the parties to the nuclear talks continue to communicate and interact even in the absence of formal negotiations on the deal revival, and that Joseph Borrell is coordinating with all the participants in the negotiations, including Iran and the United States. The European Union on Monday introduced new sanctions against Iran for crackdown on protests. But the bloc's top diplomat said the country's Revolutionary Guards cannot be listed as terrorist group without a court decision. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman said on Monday that Iran would take serious and decisive action in response to what he called a confrontative and illegal move by the European Union.
In Iran, we are going to discuss new personal sanctions according with the legal framework on human rights. But as a terrorist organization for the Revolutionary Guard, I repeat, it has to be first a condemnation for a court in one member state.
Our response will correspond to Europe's attitude. We will interact with interaction and confront confrontation, and we will take serious and decisive action that is proportionate to their actions.
In a different development, Poland has reiterated that it is ready to send tanks to Ukraine without Germany's consent, as pressure builds on Berlin to supply the heavy weapons that Kiev has been calling for. The details in this report by Selma Nasib.
Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said on Monday that Germany's approval for the re-export of Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine is of secondary importance. Poland could send tanks as part of coalition of countries, even without its permission anyways.
We will apply for such consent, but this is a secondary topic. Even if we do not get this consent in the end as part of a small coalition, even if Germans would not be in this coalition, we will still hand over our tanks, together with others, to Ukraine.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that Germany is under pressure to allow the shipment of German-made tanks to Ukraine. Therefore, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said on Sunday that Germany would not stand in the way if Poland sent its German-made Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine.
I take into consideration what Mr. Kuleba said. Tanks are needed not just for a ride down the street. It's for defending themselves. I do understand how important these tanks are. We're fully aware of that. That's why, with all our partners, we're in the process of consultations. What we want to do is to free and save the Ukrainian territory.
For their part, European foreign ministers, meeting on Monday to discuss aid to Ukraine, pressed Berlin to let countries send German-made Leopard tanks after Germany appeared to open the door to such shipments by allies.
Let me be clear that Germany is an engine of Europe, the biggest partner in the European Union, and it creates also a particular responsibility. And I hope that there will be not a certain ambivalency, a purgatorium on that decision which is on there, but we will have to act immediately.
Indeed, the issue of supplying the German-made Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine has dominated recent discussions among Western allies about how much and what sort of material aid they should give Ukraine as the first anniversary of the Russian military operation.
There is mounting pressure for France and Germany to revamp their cooperation and leadership within the EU. They aim to agree on a common roadmap for decarbonized hydrogen, in which nuclear-based hydrogen will play an important role. Sofiane Katouri with more.
French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz meeting at the Élysée Palace on Sunday ushered in not military cooperation and defense agreements. The two leaders and many ministers from both sides focused on the economic sector during this meeting as well.
The Franco-German engine is a machine of compromise, a well-greased machine but which at times can be noisy and bears witness to hard work. It does not work with flattery and meaningless symbolism. What makes the Franco-German couple work is our firm desire to always transform controversies and divergent interests into convergent action.
French President Emmanuel Macron said that the European hydrogen pipeline project H2Med, aimed at developing the use of hydrogen on the continent, will be extended from countries in the southwestern Europe to Germany, while Air Liquide and Siemens are collaborating with hope to scale up production of electrolysis models for carbon-free hydrogen production.
Je veux ici dire deux avancées importantes de ces dernières semaines.
And secondly, we have decided to expand the H2Med project, which thanks to the European funding, links Portugal, Spain and France, and will be at the heart of its hydrogen strategy to Germany, which will be a partner in this strategy.
France and Germany defined a common line in favor of an ambitious and rapid European response to American industrial subsidies in the field of energy transition.
Notre volonté est d'encourager les efforts européens comme nous l'avons.
Our desire is to encourage European efforts, as we noted in December, to engage in discussion with our American friends, to obtain adjustments in any case the conditions of access to the American market within the framework of the Inflation Reduction Act, which allow Europe, the European Union, to be treated as the main partners, which are Mexico and Canada. This is why our desire is also to move forward on a European response relevant with simple, fast, visible instruments for our manufacturers.
The leaders of France and Germany sought at summit on Sunday to pave over divisions that have dogged Europe's closest bilateral relations since the war in Ukraine broke out, leaving many of their most vexed issues to be worked out later.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that Moscow did not want any scandals regarding joint naval drills between Russia, China and South Africa scheduled for next month. He was responding to criticism surrounding the drills at a news conference on Monday during a visit to South Africa. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that conflict between Moscow and the West could no longer be defined as a hybrid war, but was closer to a real one. A 72-year-old man has been confirmed as the person suspected of carrying out a deadly mass shooting in Monterey Park, California. The shooting left 10 people dead and 10 others injured as the city's large Asian American community was celebrating Lunar New Year weekend. Islam Said with more.
A new mass shooting marked the celebrations of the Lunar Year in the United States after a gunman killed 10 people and left 10 others in critical conditions in Monterey Park near Los Angeles. The shooter, who was on the loose for several hours, was found dead in a white van, about 34 kilometers from the shooting scene.
At 12:52 p.m., our sheriff's SWAT team approached and cleared the van and determined the suspect sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators conducted a search of the vehicle and determined the male inside the van was the mass shooting suspect.
U.S. President Joe Biden ordered flags to be lowered at half staff in the White House and other government agencies to honor the victims. Vice President Kamala Harris said senseless gun violence in the country must stop.
As we pray for those who are injured and as we grieve for those many people whose lives are forever changed. All of us in this room and in our country understand this violence must stop.
A temporary memorial was built on Monday outside the California Dance Hall in memory of the victims. California authorities set up a family reunion center in Monterey Park to provide help and all the services to victims' families.
Yeah, so the facilities here is comprised of different entities: Department of Mental Health, the FBI crisis team, and the City of Los Angeles Mayor's response team, along with the Red Cross. And they all provide different services, from comforting, from counseling. They're providing food services, and any other type of need that the family needs.
Mass shootings happen frequently in the United States amid continuous division over gun control. California has witnessed other mass shootings, but the deadliest of the state's history so far took place in 1984 at McDonald's near San Diego, when a shooter killed 21 people.
And as developed in our headlines, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Monday, after his first international visit since taking office and alongside Argentine President Alberto Fernandez, that his country and Argentina are in early talks to establish a shared unit of value for bilateral trade to reduce reliance on the US dollar, although the move is not aimed at replacing existing currencies.
Our finance ministers are currently working, each with his own economic team, to make us proposal for foreign trade and transactions between the two countries that is done in a common currency, to build after much debate and many meetings.
People in Hong Kong are celebrating the Lunar New Year for the first time since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. The territory is welcoming hundreds of thousands of visitors from mainland China, and some are reuniting with family for the first time in 3 years.
We've been locked down for 3 years, right? After 3 years, suddenly they lifted the lockdowns. Suddenly the policy changed. It went from an extreme to the other. This created a feeling of agoraphobia. You know this too. A lot of people died.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak opened an investigation on Monday into allegations that the chairman of the governing Conservative Party, Nadhim Zahawi, settled a multi-million-dollar unpaid tax bill while he was in charge of the country's treasury. It's one of multiple stories about secret loans and unpaid taxes causing discomfort for Sunak, who has faced scrutiny for his own personal wealth and family tax arrangements.
Integrity and accountability is really important to me, and clearly in this case there are questions that need answering, and that's why I've asked our independent advisor to get to the bottom of everything, to investigate the matter fully and establish all the facts and provide advice to me on Nadhim Zahawi's compliance with the ministerial code. I'm pleased that Nadhim Zahawi has agreed with that approach and has agreed to fully cooperate with that investigation.
In UK still, on Monday, British ambulance staff are for a new strike to demand wage increases in the face of inflation in the United Kingdom, where the multiplication of social conflicts does not seem about to dry up in the face of the inflexibility of the government.
We're here because we're genuinely concerned about public safety. When people are leaving the NHS in droves, members of staff aren't staying. They're disillusioned, they're disheartened, they're fed up with the situation as it currently is, and there's no incentive to stay. The pay is not rising in line with inflation, and as a result, our patients are suffering, and that's what we want to change.
For more stories making headlines around the world, I'm saying let's follow the news in brief.
Russia said it was downgrading diplomatic relations with NATO member Estonia, accusing Tallinn of total Russophobia. The Russian Foreign Ministry therefore said it had told the Estonian envoy he must leave next month, and both countries would be represented in each other's capitals by an interim chargé d'affaires instead of an ambassador.
Hundreds of protesters gathered in Brussels in support of Belgian aid worker Olivier van der Kastille, detained in Iran since February 24, 2022. He was sentenced to a total of 40 years in prison in Tehran for spying. According to Tehran, he's expected to serve 12 years and a half.
The body of a prominent Cameroonian journalist has been found near the capital, 5 days after he was abducted by an unidentified assailant. According to media, the journalist, director of private radio station, was kidnapped on January 17th as he tried to enter a police station to escape his attackers.
A judge probing the deadly August 2020 Beirut port explosion has charged 2 of the country's top generals and a former army chief who said they're in connection with the explosion that killed more than 220 people.
And finally, to some football news, Madagascar ended their group campaign as the leaders in Group C following a thumping win over Sudan in their final game. The Southern Africans scored 3 goals in the first half of the game on Monday night and held on to complete the game without conceding a goal. Well, that's the end of our news for today. For more stories, you can visit our social media platforms. From me and the rest of the English team, thank you for watching, and bye for now. Take care.